So growing a business with recurring income it's an interesting subject for a lot of reasons, because why would you want to do it in the first place? For me, a lot of it's about sustainability. Cash is a nice thing to have, and I'll kind of touch on that a bit later, but building up something that means that you can sleep at night, knowing that fundamentally the bills of the business are paid, is actually quite a more comfortable place to be. And that's one of the major reasons why I think building a recurring income is quite an important thing. How many people do that? I don't know, so I don't know all of you individually. But thinking about a portion of your business to be that related is a real positive, because it moves the business in the right direction. So I think we all recognise what happened a few years ago. And despite all of it, there was some people lost their lives, people lost their businesses, and a hard time for an awful lot of people. But I think it kind of ratified for me, and I think for a lot of business owners, that it has really changed the landscape in a way that we didn't expect. I mean, I still have vivid memories of Boris making the announcement on TV. I actually sent the whole team home from the office, because we were all quite happy working in the office. We weren't working remotely like we do now, or hybrid manner like we do now. And I can remember going home, watching Boris on the telly, and I'm sitting there thinking, right, I'm now actually terrified to jump in the car, go back to the office and get my laptop, because something's going to happen to me. That's how I felt at the time, so it was pretty damn scary. But it has changed it in a positive way and a negative way. As a business owner, I sat there thinking, we build our business on no contracts, we build people and confidence in us because people want to be with us for the right reasons. All of that could have been just out the window, but we had to pivot and do things to change. But at the same time, it also totally opened up where someone didn't have recurring income and how they couldn't continue to pay their bills, because a lot of the bills were still there, whether we liked it or not. The doors were closed, the bills were very much there. So it changed the landscape an awful lot. So I think it's quite pivotal to appreciate that. But when you start to look at the cash is king bit, I won't share exact number, but we lost a fair few businesses as a company that were, as everyone else did, with members as well. If you had a cash-only business, no one actually ever thought the high street would close. No one ever thought those doors would be shut and not be able to do the things they want to do. Businesses like one that sticks in my mind, not a gym incidentally, but interestingly, a nail bar. So this lady had recognised that her business had literally closed overnight because the doors had closed. When she reopened, she looked and worked with us to find a way of collecting money monthly for payments for her customers to have their nails done. Genius idea. Because what she's now done straight away, although it's not the gym industry, but the relevance and how different it can be, is that she now had a monthly payment for her clients, whether they wanted to have their nails polished, new nails put on, whatever they might do. I'm not a nail specialist, hasten to add, but what I will say is that it was very interesting to recognise that she could see the benefit in that, and that meant her business was sustainable. The gyms that we had that went under, and there was a few of them, sadly went under because they'd always believed that cash was king. They'd always believed that HMRC was well, as much as we hate the HMRC, no one wants to pay for something you don't really see, potentially don't see any value in it. I've got to be not too contentious about that. But it's something we have to pay for. And those that tried to dodge it thought they'd been clever. Not so clever now. A very close friend of mine is a cabbie. And Bill, I won't mention his surname, you won't know who it is then, but Bill, working out a local Brentwood railway station, sat there taking a proportion of cash every day of the week. And he felt that he had the best business in the world. Bill always had money, was always at the bar paying for cash, because I didn't, John. But the reality is that overnight, his business has closed. And he could see that he thought HMRC didn't know how much he earned. Gym owners thought HMRC didn't know. It's all going in the back pocket. Reality, it's not king anymore. So it ends up being a balance of both once you go forward. So making things more affordable. So by using a monthly payment option, you can make the business feel more affordable, more accessible, and making things simple is absolutely key. It's quite often people do overcomplicate membership plans. They'll have a list of God knows how many plans. In my gym, I had 2. I've got the fingers the right way around. Literally just 2. You could join and pay up front for the whole year, or you could pay monthly. Simple as that. There was no other decision to be made, because I'd already worked out exactly how much money I need to do to pay the lease, to pay the staff, to pay the other bills. That way, everything else became bunts, in effect, so any cash on top. And as my income grew, that just helped me know that I could always sleep at night. But making it affordable and understanding that it's not necessarily having a low payment, it's not necessarily having a high payment, it's understanding your market and making sure it's something as a service that people are prepared to pay a proportion of money for out of their pocket that they see value in. Very often we feel quite that we need to fight against maybe the budget gyms, maybe not always the biggest key, because you will see that value for money, people will pay if they feel it's value. I typically hear more people saying, I will pay more if I get a better level of service. We all do it with Sky TV. As much as we hate Sky TV, I spend, with the internet and phones, like about £150 a month on it. But part of the reason is I bought cinema and I want to see them clearly, so I sell me another £10 a month for HD. Well, it's all about getting your customer on board in your gym at a point that they feel affordable, and then selling those additional services, hopefully on a recurring income, so you can have multiple memberships for different services, and that builds the overall revenue that you're making out of every customer. Because ultimately, you want to sweat the asset of your 200, 300, 500 members to get them to spend more. And by doing it as a recurring income, you stand a better chance of making that more sustainable. That wasn't a deliberate ploy, Ivan, with the rocket, I hasten to add. But as I say, predictability and scalability. I kind of touched on it a bit earlier. It really is important, because when you've got a recurring income, you start to know what you're earning. You know what's coming in. It's all about the net gain. It's not about how many you sold and how many you lost. If you lost a load of customers, I think that was the biggest lesson I learned when I opened our first gym years ago. I was mortified when the first person cancelled. Absolutely mortified. Thought I'd done everything wrong. Took it personally. And then the penny dropped that it's a funnel, right? I started off with 100 paying customers. I sold 20, lost 10, I've still grown by 10. It's about the net gain. You just have to zone yourself out of those that will come and go, because they will. But if you build that up on recurring income, it's a much safer place to be than worrying about the next 300 quid that's going to come in when someone pays you for a whole year, God willing, or someone's going to pay you £30 a month in cash. Well, there's not many people running through the door for doing that, are there? So making it predictable and scalability is really key. And so would be, it's going to work. So, and making it simple. I suppose I'm touching on a few of these points earlier in the slides. But simplicity is absolutely key. If you've got a simple proposition, simple proposition is really important, because a simple proposition is easy for the customer to understand. Bamboozling people with loads of membership plans and loads of confusing options is quite rightly confusing. Quite often, confusing for the members of staff trying to sell it. And if you've got a simple process and a simple offering, and you know that collecting, say 30, I use the example of 30 quid a month, but if 30 quid a month is where you need to be, and you need to get this many members paying you 30 quid a month, that's all you should think about. Everything else can build on top of that, and then you can allow or help that customer spend more money with you, because once you've got them, they're then experiencing the benefits that you've provided your business. So, predictability of cash flow. One of the things, yet again, is when you're going to pay your bills. Different bills come out at different times. And if you are collecting money just on one day of the month, personally, everyone's got an opinion on this, but I think that's a bad move. If you've got, say, twice or 4 times a month, you've got more predictable lumps of money coming in, which are paid to you most probably dovetailed in between the bills you're likely to get. Now, you stand a much better chance of dealing with that. And if you're not in tune with your numbers, because let's be fair, when you're running your business, you're looking after customers and all many other things that you're doing during the course of a busy day, looking at the actual accounts may not be your first go-to place. Certainly wasn't mine. And knowing that you've got cash coming in regularly means you're not so worried about when those bills come in, because you know it's all there. Collecting all on one particular day in a month makes you feel good because you've got a load of cash just turned up, but at some stage that's going to be spent, and there's going to come a point as the month goes on, you're thinking, business rates, got a problem now. VAT, that's not so good, forgot about that, that's a quarterly thing. All those kind of things start to become more difficult to manage. So when you're collecting by recurring payment, it helps your cash flow. And I would recommend, and everyone's got a personal choice on it, of course, but going for 4 times a month spreads that load and makes it more convenient and more, just a bit more relaxing. At least you can sleep at night. So process, kind of in tandem with what you're doing. If you've got a great product and you go through a standard process every time you're selling a membership, and that's pretty much what we're talking about, because we're talking about creating recurring income by selling memberships. It's very important to think about what that process is and what the goal is from A to Z, for example. And taking people down a process, as boring as it might be, and repetitive as it might be, if you know that process works after maybe several weeks or months or years of tweaking it, stick to it. Why would you want to change it? Because ultimately people have come to you to find out what they want to change in their personal life and their well-being. That's your job. The next thing, all they've got to do is work out whether they want to pay for you upfront or for monthly for each month for your services. But the process allows them to get to a position of decision making very, very quickly. So it kind of slightly off topic in terms of recurring income, but it's relevant because if you then make it a complex decision at the end, would you like to join today, Neil? And Neil's going, well, I've got 10 choices here, I'm really not quite sure which you're doing. Then you're sitting there looking through the price list and you're actually not quite sure yourself, because the last 2 offers were set up 2 years ago and you still don't know what they were because you haven't sold them for the last 3 years. It becomes difficult. So simplicity and process, I couldn't really sort of think about that, how important that actually is. Just waiting for the laptop to catch up. Hey. It makes everything more robust. You know, at the end of the day, regular income and an element of cash. I'm not saying you don't have cash, because you do need money that's going to, it's nice to have that amount of money, but the regular income makes the business more robust. You know, any business that you see now is fundamentally a SaaS related item. You might pay a setup fee, you might pay no setup fee. There's typically no contract. You pay for that service monthly. You enjoy the service, you carry on paying for it. If you don't enjoy the service, well, why would you want to carry on paying for it? You know, it's a world that's changed. It's not a world of contracts, but it is if you provide and understand your customer and understand what their needs are, there's actually no need for the contract, because people stay with you for the right reasons, because they want to, genuinely want to do and enjoy the services that you provide. And I think that's where it also comes down to beating people's prices and trying to be the lowest and all various different things that I personally don't think are that important. I think it's actually more important to look at what product you have that stands out as different to everyone else. Because believe you me, your service will be different to everyone else. It will be the item that's unique. That means that's why they joined. It'll be, a little anecdote that we did many years ago was we surveyed our members. We wanted to survey our members to find out why they were here. Why were they in the business? Because if I could find that information, all I've now got to do is find more of them. It's as simple as it is. And that sounds simple, and it's also very difficult sometimes to ask questions because we might not necessarily like the answers. But if you're actually happy to take on board the answers, good and bad, and then look at what that customer looks like, you may or may not have heard of a customer avatar. You know, that then becomes your target customer. That's the target customer you're looking for. They're the types of members that enjoy your gym enjoy your PT facility or small group facility. They enjoy coming to you for one reason, but sometimes we don't often ask why. And at that point, part of that equation becomes how much they pay per month. You know, if they're happy to pay you £50 a month and you can see that, well, great, you might be able to squeeze it to 55. Or know that you just want to find more people at 50. But you know. And that makes it a whole lot more robust. So I'm going to say thank you for listening. If anyone's got any questions, I may not be able to answer them, but I'm happy to field them. Was that of interest for people, though? Was there anything of use?
I think there's a couple of things that well, not maybe dispute with you, but...
It's only an opinion.
Contracts is an interesting one, I think, because obviously we've got that stupid law in this country with direct debit guarantee, which is the most perverse legal ruling in Europe for as owners. It's an absolute disgrace that we have to abide by it, because obviously they can pull back money left, right and centre after you provide. And
then you've got to try and prove that you should get the money back off the customer. Yeah, I agree.
And invariably the banks are never going to side with us, because they're the people that then have to go do the work.
100%.
They always side the easy way.
Yep.
Even if the person is a lying gypsy. Sorry.
Thanks, John. You haven't had a beer yet.
Anyway, so that doesn't really help there. So
yeah, of course.
I mean, we have contracts. We know contracts are not worth the paper they're written on.
No.
Legally, because of the direct debit.
But there is an intention to stay for 6 months or 12 months.
Obviously, having two memberships it sounds really easy and nice. But I mean, we have two, but then we have multiples off those two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do it years up front, because it's great. I don't really want a year up front, because I mean I have to manage my money then for a whole year.
Exactly, kind of what we said, doesn't it? Yeah. You have to remember you've got that money and spread it out, right?
I prefer monthly payments, and I prefer the continuity of monthly payments.
Absolutely.
The contract we do is a 6 month one.
Yeah, which is good.
Invariably, you know, they can get out of those if they want.
Of course.
You know, but it's that you're never going to take somebody to court early.
No.
Because there's two reasons. One, the cost of it, and then two is the bad press that you get from it.
Of course.
You know, so
especially locally, isn't it?
It's an interesting concept, but I believe we do a 6 month contract, but we reward with that, you know, because they're committing to us for a bit longer, they get a cheaper member.
I think the word commitment you just mentioned is actually almost more important than contract.
Yeah.
So it's like we're asking you to commit to 3 months or 6 months. Yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed they will, but the word commitment psychologically is a better word than contract. Contract's quite potentially confrontational.
And I think the other thing about that commitment or contract, or whatever you want to call it, is I think that if you do the option where they do pay monthly and you stick to just a monthly and you pay as you go, for a better description of it, is that if somebody goes on holiday in the summer, they'll just go, I'm not going to pay now, I'll have a month off. So you've lost your income for a month. Whereas if you're into a contract, 6 months, even though that contract we know doesn't legally bind them to it.
No, exactly.
They are still a member.
Of course.
And they could be 3 months into a 6 month contract. And at the end, while they go on holiday, you're also denying them the opportunity to think, well, actually, I haven't got a membership, so I won't go back.
Yeah.
Whereas if they've got a membership running over 6 months...
Or you could freeze it.
If you... They will come back and carry on invariably.
As a policy, you may have a company policy. I'll answer your question in a minute, sir.
I've got a response to that, but I'll let you...
Go on, I was going to suggest that...
That's one of the reasons we do contracts or commitment, whatever you want to call it, is because obviously we do get the holiday makers.
Yeah.
And I'm a great believer in not giving anybody any opportunity to cancel easily.
And that's the thing, there's no right or wrong answer for any of it, is it? It's all opinion. Ivan, I'm sure you've got a spin on this one.
Yeah, sorry, Ivan, it's Paul.
Nice to meet you.
So I do. So I've been doing this since 1998. So the consumer credit act changed in 2005, so which made it more difficult for contracts. So you need a consumer credit act license, things like that. It's just out the window. So you can contract up to 12 months. I question why you're doing 6 months, because if you look at the national stats, on average, if you saw the month-to-month easy options, 30 days notice, you would get between 5 and 7 payments nationally. That's where you sit. Yeah. So if you're offering a 6-month contract, you're basically putting a barrier to sale. It doesn't really need to be there. You might as well sell month-to-month. In mind, you've got national stats, you've got to might do. So I think it's about giving the consumer a choice to say, right, okay,
agreed.
This is my month-to-month, and price it accordingly, or a 12-month agreement. Yeah, or
Yeah.
whatever. That's
Yeah.
what we said, it's 12 months commitment. But 6 months to me is a balance and setup. It doesn't really need to be done.
I would say that the reason we went for 6 months, that we had 12 months initially, and we found that 12 months were broken more often, more regularly than a 6 months. So
Yeah.
when we went to 6 months, they were broken less. We still get the odd one, but we
Course.
nowhere near the amount when we had 12.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's interesting.
The reason we put a contract in place is because we wanted some commitment.
Yeah.
You know, so that was the reason for having a contract, and then we could
And then you can start and see a look at length of stay, can't you?
found that 12 months was more often broke than it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's looking at the lifetime value of the member.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's about reoccurring revenue, it's about the LTV of that membership. On a 12-month contract, you generally get, and that comes averages around 15 to 16 months. On a month-to-month, around 5 to 7 or 6 months around 9. So it's pricing gyms accordingly.
Yeah.
Looking at, as Wayne quite rightly points out, like bills and things like that, and where you can sleep at night, but making sure that your price is right, and you can do that. On average, you get 9 months off that 6 minutes,
Yeah.
12, you're pricing that accordingly.
I mean, I would say the adjustment that we've done in the last 12 months is that our 6 months, instead of renewing every 6 months, doing another 6 months.
Yeah.
After the first 6 months, we've had that commitment.
They carry on
We
rolling.
now move them straight onto a rolling contract.
Of course.
thereafter.
And then you can start to look at length of stay.
And invariably, I think that's 6 months.
Yep.
They know whether they like your club or not.
Yeah.
You know, they have a good time span to go, yeah, actually I like the place, or no, it's not for me.
Exactly.
And
you've still been-
on a roll and they stay anyway. You know, and I think what we're talking normally, 60% of your members stay
Yeah.
between 3 and 4 years, roughly. I think.
But the interesting statistic then, John, becomes the length of stay beyond that, doesn't it?
On the, on the,
Well, you're always
early
going to
offer.
get your 20% of the business there.
Yeah.
You know, you could, the only machines could rock and it's still be good. You know, 20% is you're never going to do exercise. You're always going to do yeah, and then you've got your 60%, that's where we need to focus, they're kind of on that cusp. So when you're talking about contracts and things like that, I think we used to call it credit control, right? And court, I think when we did issue credit, I was probably in court 3 times a week, for memberships, which was crazy to do that. But now we talk about the win-back process. So what we're doing in that first 30 days to engage. So using technology like ClubRight, like Exposure and other, to make your life easy, to free your time up, to be able to be more member-centric. So as those people cancel direct debit or recurring payment, whatever, how can we be more proactive and member-centric to try and re-engage with those members to increase that long-term value of the member? So if you think about your gyms, and if you increase that by 1 month, just think about the value you're adding on the bottom line there. You know, so the focus has got to go on 60%. Is there an offer to tell them back? Is it a tea session, or whatever it might be? But just think about those 60% as well.
And it's interesting when you no, it's all good stuff because it's the discussion point, right? Everyone's got good value and good ideas and lots of experience in the industry. And I think one of the things that Guy Griffiths mentions quite often is length of stay. You know, length of stay picks up on what Ivan's just been saying. Is key. You know, the people that stay for longer, clearly something's right. They've gone past their 6-month commitment. They're now 2 years in. They're loving it, and they're still paying you. And you can see how that growth and length of stay is really key. And when you can see that information clearly, you can actually see how that business is growing. So I think that's exactly right.
Do you find that not enough clubs actually ask their members what's right for them?
I think you're right. But that usually comes down to the sales process. It's a case of, did they actually do a particularly great discovery discussion to find out what are they looking to achieve? I mean, I hate to say it, but how many people don't bother doing that? You know, it's just we go straight to the price and it's either a yes or a no and off they go. But if we are finding out what they're looking to achieve, like you rightly said, then we find the right product that suits their needs. And that means that if they bought something that suits their needs, guess what? They'll carry on paying it for many years, with or without a commitment at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think there's much about, there's a lot of brands these days mention, loyalty is unrewarded, as opposed to loyalty being rewarded.
Can be.
60%, we might be somewhere on that bell curve,
Yeah.
your firm, is, we'll tend to go in, who gets the best mortgage offers?
Yeah.
It's not completely with the...
Yeah. So you talk about rewarding existing customers. Talk about rewarding existing customers.
And of course, one of the things that I'm quite scared of is actually asking people.
Yeah.
Asking people what they want, and then working out how to give it to them better.
Yeah.
gap, not just in this, I work
Yeah.
lots of sectors, but I think, in this sector as well.
And it's quite a scary thing to ask customers sometimes. It's something that we do, and there's going to be responses you didn't quite want to hear sometimes, because that happens. We're all in business. And there's also going to be some holy grail moments of ideas that people think, I really wish we thought of that. That's genius. We need to do that. And some good reasons why people like you. Because surprisingly enough, in this world that we are now, we're very transient. We can move and we can change and do what the hell we want when we want, pretty much. There's a lot of good reasons to stay for people. And people will stay with you because they want to and they see value in it. And I think when you've got that core of customers, knowing how they understand the value of the product you sell as a service, because that's the end of the day, the gym industry is a service, and what that service is the one that they enjoy engaging with, then you've got that right way forward. And sustainability for retention, I know that's important as much as anything else, as much as the payments.
I think that, yes, it's important to ask your clients for their opinion. However, there's a fine art between, because you could be constantly pivoting left, right, etc., because they come up with so many different ideas. And the other thing is, we've got a customer in the UK in particular that want David Lloyd stamp out. They want to pay pure gym prices.
Yeah, but they'll always be there.
Well, you want pure gym, and you want to pay pure gym
It's
prices,
there.
you get pure gym.
Go there. Yeah.
So, and I think as a gym owner myself, we have an identity.
Yeah, of course you do.
I designed the gym around. It's interesting what listening to Adam just talk there. He designed the gym about what he wanted.
Yes.
I mean, I think most gym owners do. When they set up their own gym, they design a gym that
It's your personality stamp on the business.
it's your thing. So
Yeah.
I think you've got to be really careful. You have your brand, your identity, and you have a product that you sell, and you have to be very careful with the member thing going, well, I want this. Well, actually, to be fair, sometimes I've had that discussion with members. Well, you're in the wrong club.
Yeah.
I think the club you're looking for is down the road, because I get some old women come into my club and they go, what are you after? And they go, well, I want a swim and a sauna. And I'm like, the club you want is.
We haven't dug the hole yet.
It's down the road. It's a Mum that Diet Coke club.
Further, we do need jerks. What it does, it gives you. We're all sentient human beings. We're allowed to make our own decisions.
Absolutely.
No,
And there's a great methodology around asking really good questions and then working out what the answers may or may not mean.
Yeah.
And then you have the choice about making decisions about.
Yeah. And then you can know what you want to deliver if you can.
Yeah, I think some really good things do come out from member feedback. I mean, we obviously pride ourselves, Wayne's been to our club loads of times and stuff, and I like to think it's a pretty clean and tidy club. And one of the things we recently did on a bit of member feedback, because somebody pointed out our machines were a little bit dusty.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
Because we do really pride ourselves, and so actually I went out the following day, put a job out, and the best thing we ever did, we discussed it last night. I employ a woman for 2 hours a day, and all she does is clean machines now.
Yeah.
That's her job.
Yeah.
That's all she does.
But it's ironed out that criticism, isn't it?
Our staff don't want to do it, but that was purely done on the back of it, and then the feedback.
It's interesting because knowing how detailed and clean your place is, I'm actually surprised. But it's interesting that people pick that up. And one of the highest things on surveys has always been cleanliness, hasn't it? Of a gym, it's always been cleanliness.
We were like one of the top clubs in not just our area in Britain for doing all the protocols, having all the fresh.
Get a spray for everything.
When you came in, the whole room, we did the whole thing. We were spraying everywhere and all of that. But it was interesting post-pandemic.
Yeah.
People are very conscious about that whole thing. But it was on a bit of feedback that somebody given me, and I took it quite personally actually.
Yeah.
Because then my club did like that's it, get straight on that.
Yeah,
So we did that, but actually, I've got to say, we 2 months you've been there now, and it's made a significant difference actually.
Yeah.
And that was a good bit of member feedback. So yes, I think taking the right member feedback,
Cool.
and using it appropriately is very important.
It really is important. Any other questions, I guess?
No, it's just member feedback. Yeah, it's an interesting one. So end of every year, we send a questionnaire, goes out, all our current members, all of our members that left. We do small group PT, so we're not like membership, it's more hands-on. But we basically look at the answers that come, it's all anonymous. So often when people cancel, they say the reason that they want to.
That was you!
We live in Britain, we're too prudish on what we want to say, we send it out every year, all those who cancelled said, look, this is completely anonymous, just honestly tell me, like, what was the real reason you cancelled? If you could maybe wave a magic wand and grant your wish, what would have made you stay?
Yeah.
And that's quite revealing.
And it's a very well put together phrase
Yeah,
as well.
It's really like informal, it's a little bit jokey, and then current members, we ask a load of points, but we get it back, and we might manipulate the answers. So come the new year,
How churlish of you.
70% of people said they've really enjoyed this or want this.
Right.
And because of like the nature of the wisdom of the crowds, people that didn't vote for that might be like, oh yeah, no, I can see that. And so you can use them to your advantage. Like
Yeah.
we did a price increase beginning of 2022. We said, look, rates are going to have to go up. They're not going up in 5 years. You've got a choice.
Yeah.
You can either do 7%, 10%,
Mhm.
15%. And then most people picked 7. There are a few like 10s. But we just came back and said, look guys, really great to hear your feedback. We knew we were going to raise it by 10% anyway.
Of course.
And we just said, look, majority of you said 10%, that's what we're going to do. Did we have anybody leave?
No, because you gain their commitment almost early on, which
Yeah,
is
so
fantastic.
I think feedback's really
It is.
crucial, to be
It is
fair.
important.
And members then feel they have a voice.
Yeah.
What you do with it is entirely up to you.
I think as an independent club owner, going back to the day when my wife and I had our first gym, if I think about it, more even more now than ever before, the members actually thought they owned the club anyway. Absolutely thought they owned it. And if you disrespected that, you've disrespected them. And I think that's quite an important thing about community and why people see value in what you provide. And you kind of underestimate that, but they're there to support you all day long. But if you forget the fact that that community, they actually genuinely feel they own you and the premises is there, which is no bad thing because that means they're generally invested in it.
Well, they could be a lifeblood for the business.
Absolutely, 100%.
Pandemic, classic for us. We had, just under 1,900 members pre-pandemic. We retained 1,100 of them paying all the way through the pandemic.
It's incredible.
You know, so we weren't an expensive club, to be fair, but 1,100 people paid all the way through in every part of the lockdown.
Yeah.
You know, we sent out a letter, a very well-worded letter, fortunately my wife wrote it.
Well done, Helen.
She's good at that kind of stuff. And basically said, you know, we want your support, you're part of our community, we rely on you, we're here. I mean, we put things in place like, you know, we did online PT classes, all that sort of thing, that you know, we pivoted well and quickly enough to do that.
Yeah.
But a lot of it, that ownership of members to your club is really important, even in a big, what I would say we're a big club, I
Yeah,
suppose.
well, 17,000 square feet's big.
Yeah. So we were very lucky to keep those 1,100 paying all the way through. And a lot of them are still members now.
Exactly.
You know, so, and as I say to them, I made the promise to them at the time that I would never increase their membership payment.
Okay.
As long as they stayed with us post-pandemic, and I stick by that now.
Yeah.
Because invariably, I mean, I think I've got 200 people that are still on that early bird that we had, you know.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. When we opened. And we only do our price increases to new members.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
Always did the same ourselves, and I'm in agreement with that.
roll over turnover. And some people say that's wrong, some people say it's right.
So we did that. We said you can keep with the current rate if you agree to lock in for another 12 months. And so that's what most people do. And you've got that reassurance that if they've been within 3 years, lock in for another 12 months. So we kept their same rate.
Yeah.
And then after that,
I think we're kind of in a, you know, I think if you're in a smaller gym where you offer a lot more PT and stuff, it's an easier ask to a member to say, oh, we're going to increase prices because of this. When we're in a particularly poor ward, in a poor county, and then we are competing because of our size against the likes of Pure and that, although we're not Pure, we're very different to them. But because of our size, we compete against them. It's hard sometimes to go, right, we're whacking up prices.
Exactly.
I mean, but one of the things, the best thing we ever did to stop people going to Pure is we went 24/7.
Yep.
And I was very anti 24/7. But it was the best thing we ever did.
24/7 converts sitting right there.
Yeah, financially, I mean, if you want to speak to me private about it, you think about it, I'll tell you all about it, but it's made a £220,000 difference to my business in a year.
Which is quite significant.
Okay. Which is significant in anybody's book.
Any other questions on recurring income? Just conscious of time. I don't know how we're doing on time, but... Oh, yeah, please do.
Sorry, it's picking up a point about your payment dates, Wayne. So you said about most people doing 1, you said 2 and 4 would be recommended.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. if you think about pro rata and what that means to the consumer, it means nothing to you. So if you're only collecting once a month, you're probably asking for a full month up front. If the more payment dates you do, it decreases that pro rata payment at the end, so they don't have to fork out as much at the front. Even zero, you know, so you don't have to pay anything now, your first payment's going to be in 5 days. Bang, done.
Yeah.
Takes that objection if you want to say that way.
And you set the direct debit up quicker as well. That's the other thing, you know, you set up quicker, less likely to be potentially cancelled.
Yeah.
You've got some money in the bin because you're taking that pro rata payment.
I mean, you can collect every day. People like JD and people collect every day. But, you know, it's probably a bit too much. But minimum 4, I would suggest, which is generally first day,
Yeah.
15th, 25th of the month. If you look at the 25th of the month, 75% of the UK get paid on the 25th of the month.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good day. If you look at debt collectors, it's always the 25th of the month. Don't take on it. Always.
John knocking on the door.
Just think about that.
Yeah.
And the challenge there, if you look at the Australian market, everything is weekly. So if you can pivot to a weekly payment, guess what? You can advertise at a cheaper price, pay about £7 weekly or whatever. But you also get one extra payment in a year.
Yep.
If
So,
you do it weekly.
yeah.
So you get 52 payments instead of 12 installments off. So something else to think about.
So would you suggest that to us to bill weekly? So we show our prices weekly,
Yeah.
but we bill monthly just because
Yeah.
I'm too nervous to bill weekly. Also, it's a bit of a headache, isn't it?
It's not actually that difficult to do. It's easy enough to do.
I suppose not, but as if I was a consumer, like, I'm seeing that payment come out every week.
But it's about accessibility though.
Challenging because it's not the norm.
Yeah.
that's,
Well, it's a bit like trying to sell direct debit into America. That's not going to work because they only do card.
Yeah, but it's something we can start introducing to the market, you know, collectively. You know, something to start thinking about, because guess what, it's going to make money for a year.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how many defaults you get. I think you get the first 2 or 3 of the month of their payment month, and then the fourth one. It'd be interesting to see how many of the fourth ones defaulted.
That's all
that
that
week.
week, that's all.
Yeah, no, that'd be really interesting to see.
because I wouldn't mind looking at doing it. I'm just too nervous.
Well, you can always test it, can't you? I mean,
You always test it with a small.
you can always test it on a small sample, and if it doesn't work and you're not comfortable with it, fine.
There's an option, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You can play monthly, you can play weekly at this price. Or
Yeah.
It's a way of paying that, you know, it's still a recurring income. It might be collected every week, like Iman's quite rightly said. It's easy enough for us to do. Or it could be collected monthly. Either option could work, and as long as it increases more people paying you, that's the ultimate goal, right?
I mean, my question there, if you're collecting every week, and the claim that, I mean, how much would that cost, add on to your costs in collection fees?
Well, obviously every time there's a collection, there's a charge.
Yeah.
But that's the choice you make, as if it's, you've got to weigh one against the other. And if you're actually getting an extra few days out of it as well, you know, your extra payment in the month, it's worth doing.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that flexibility of possibly adding that as another membership
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
something
you
worth
might
a
say,
full
I'm
process.
going to sell 100 of those and see, and they do the, you know, use the data to see where it works. You know?
Absolutely.
So are there any other questions about time? I'm just conscious of time, actually. Were you okay on time at the moment?
I think you've got till 11:40.
Well, that's okay then. So we got a few. Any more questions from around the room about recurring payments? Or we talked about memberships? No, it's no. Honestly, it's all good information.
Recurring annual?
Yeah, can do that. Recurring annual is something that a lot of people may want to do because it's gaining commitment for every 12 months, and for certain styles of business, that type of payment may be a good way to do it because that's the way you work your businesses.
Yeah, it's a great idea, just be careful on.
Thank you.
Your point about indemnities.
Cheers.
I think it's a good idea, but you might find your indemnities.
Sorry, gentleman there.
More of a comment about decision making, consumer decision making, and it sort of starts back into your comment earlier about only having 2 payment plans or two. You look at really good tech businesses and work in that world, and we've all done it. All been on websites, 3 choices.
Yep.
Everybody takes the, you know, this is why most people. This is why most.
It's the one in the middle.
But Paul says, you give people 3 choices to make, they make a decision.
Yep.
You give people 6 choices to make, they're more likely not to make it.
Exactly, 100%. They're confused.
It disappears really quickly.
It does.
With over 3
Yeah.
decision-making points. And
It's so important, and especially if you think about.
back to the, you know, asking you gave 7, 10, 15%
Yeah.
increase. Yeah, you're going to get some comment back.
Exactly, and I think when you consider someone's come in to find out if they want to join the gym. A member of staff has spent their quality time taking someone around the building to make them realise it's a really good place to join, to then confront them with a confusing menu of pricing, to let them walk out the door. You most probably be better off just handing them the pricing and let them walk out the door anyway, and save yourself some time. So making things simple and more of an assumptive decision is the best way to do it. It really is.
I think around, asking people, I was going to make a point about when people get paid, when you get paid.
Yeah.
We're really nice guys, we're not going to charge you anything. But what that does is, you get them after their payday.
Yep.
In a sense, they're more likely to pay you. Who's going to, because at the end of the month, they're going to look at the payments that come out at the end of the month.
Exactly right.
That,
Yeah.
and there's a psychology in that.
Yeah,
Totally.
I think the consumer is after more flexibility. If you look at tax work,
In everything.
Netflix, whatever, they're looking for like flexibility or more choice. But the consumers have completely changed from when I started. There's that whole office. Now they're all depending. They want flexibility.
Cool. Well, anyone got any other questions? Great. Well, my name's Wayne Heath, founder and CEO of ClubRight. If you enjoyed it, I hope you did. If it was relevant, if you have any other questions about payments or, dare I say it, we'll do the sales pitch, membership management, which is our bag. We're more than happy to talk to anyone who's here and anyone who would like to have a chat with us. Any customers that are in the room already, which is fantastic. Neil, head of sales, will be available with Jenny and to talk to us and you can have a chat. And if there's anything we can help you with, we're here to do that. That's what it's all about. Thank you for your time. Thank you.